people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Well, look at your AM 950 weather. I'm Patrick Lulia. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 35. Then rain and storms possible on Tuesday with a high of 51.
Black Friday starts early at Warner Selling Appliance with deals you can't find anywhere else, like free dishwasher installation on brands like KitchenAid, an exclusive 5% savings plus a Black Friday bonus of up to $800 on packages from select brands. Shop now at warnersellion.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We discuss local and national Native news and events all over the civic media network here in the United States. And this guest today, we're going to have Dr. Stately on later, I should say. And we're going to be talking a lot about politics. But before we get any further, I would like to get with Ogama, and Ogama with the news that you don't hear anywhere else. Welcome, Ogama.
Hey, Ani Buju, everybody. I'm Ogama Ganu Akwe. I'm a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota, and I reside currently in what is known as central Minnesota. And I have some news for you today. I don't know if it's news, but I just want to let all my Indigenous creatures know that you need to go vote. And if you're not down with what the Indigenous creatures is, maybe I should start there, Robert. Should we talk about Indigenous creatures?
Oh, my goodness.
So in the past week, a reporter from ABC read a script, presumably she either misread the prompt or somebody mistyped the prompt, but she was talking about the characters from Reservation Dogs, and she announced that indigenous creatures are taking Hollywood by storm. And Native everything on social media has just blown up with it all weekend. We're something else all over again. So now that we're all officially indigenous creatures, I wanted to let you know that you do have the right to vote as an indigenous creature. So if you are over the age of 18 and you are able and eligible to vote, we need you to get out and vote this year. There's a lot at stake. Reproductive rights are at stake. We have tribal sovereignty, and the fate of Mother Earth is also on the table right now. And what is that saying that Nancy Bolio says all the time? If you're not at the table, you're what's being served. And a way to seat yourself at that table is to ensure that you are doing your responsibility to vote and to protect our futures for our children and for the next 7 generations. So, the deadline to vote is tomorrow at 8 p.m. So make sure you're registered, make sure you have a plan, make sure you remind 3 other people in your life to go vote. And if you can, carpool, make it a fun day. Take your kids with you. It's an awesome thing to do. If you haven't yet, there's still time. You can go to makevotingatradition.org and you can make a pledge to vote. The Native American Community Development Institute has been having Make Voting a Tradition the last 2 election cycles, and it's a multi-generational program to ensure that we make voting a tradition in our communities and our lifeways and our families, because they are all impacted by the election. So make sure that you're voting. I just wanted to say that.
Good
In
reminder.
addition, oh, go ahead, Robert.
Sorry, a good reminder too is if you are in line, because there's record numbers now of votes of voting ahead of the election, which is a good sign for the Democrats, a very good sign. If you are in line tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, you can still vote. And so stay in line, don't back away. Sorry, go ahead, Ogama.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yep. Stay in line. If you're in line, don't back away. You are still able to vote as long as you are in the line before 8 p.m. And, on top of that, make sure that you know your rights as a voter. Before you go, you can go to the Secretary of State website for the state of Minnesota. You can dial 311 and you can talk about it with people that you know, people that have voted before, about what you need. If you're not registered, you can still register at the polls. You need an ID with your current address on it. And if you happen to have moved and your ID doesn't reflect your address where you're voting, make sure to bring a piece of mail with you, a utility bill, a cell phone bill, something of that nature that would indicate you live at that address and you can still vote. So make sure you know what your rights are. Don't let anybody at the polls tell you what your rights are. If you go to myballotmn.sos.state.mn.us, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm sure if you search My Ballot MN, it will come up on the Minnesota Secretary of State website. I do believe in the Minneapolis area, you can dial 311 and you can get information to vote there. So very important, and a big part of my news is that. Um, so in addition to voting, I do want to touch base on what's happening up with our relatives, the First Nations up in Canada. Over the weekend, tensions were really rising with Coastal GasLink. They blasted a creek near the Wet'suwet'en camp, and the communities there are concerned about salmon, steelhead, and the health of the river. Through their social media on Twitter, they're talking about, they organized a huge, huge statement. People all over Canada came out with the hashtag and the for the action, kill the drill. And they're asking that the Coastal GasLink company, who is trying to invade the Wet'suwet'en territory that they've been holding down now for, gosh, I don't know, Robert, how long have we been talking about Wet'suwet'en? 2 years?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, yeah, they've been
Correct.
holding it down for quite some time up there in Canada, and they need support. So even though we are here down in the United States, make sure you're taking time and reaching out to the Wet'suwet'en camp and getting your information from them. Decolonial Solidarity or at Decolonial Sol on Twitter is a good place to look to find out some information to get yourself caught up, and to figure out where you can go to help and to write letters and get involved to protect our First Nations people in Canada too. The water from their rivers would flow down to us, so we need to be aware that their first line against Canadian national companies that are here in the U.S. building pipelines and damaging Minnesota. So they've been dealing with this for longer and are facing just as direct, if not more direct, problems from those types of companies. So we need to pray and to be involved with our relatives up in Canada, which I wanted to say as well. And then there's a lot of tension, Robert, coming up on Wednesday. ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, is going to be heard by the Supreme Court. And there is a lot of tension, right, Robert?
Yeah, definitely. Ogama, thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to be in DC for that vote. And as you know, as our people that listen to the show possibly know, I am an adoptee from the 60s. So also, it'll be a governmental thing for me to be there too with the nation, Ho-Chunk Nation. I'll be out there representing them and probably calling in Native Roots Radio on Wednesdays. So you will be holding it down with whomever we got with you. But yeah, totally. We can talk a little bit more about that later in the show, Ogama, but it's amazing how all these things are messing with our sovereignty. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but we got less than a minute left. What else do you have, Ogama?
I just want to let you know that currently in the Capitol, there are teepees being raised, and in Washington, D.C., we have relatives that are there who are taking a stand to let the Supreme Court know as they go in to hear this case how we feel about it. One of those is the Native Youth Alliance. You can go to nativeyouthAlliance.com and you can find out about what they're doing, and they are looking for donations to help cover the cost of their trips. So if you're looking to support, that is one way to support. Otherwise, make sure you go online and you find and sign the petition for ICWA. I'll drop a link in the comments for everybody.
Right on. And also, there's people that are, I think the Free Leonard Peltier is very close to Washington, D.C., too, which they'll be rallying this weekend.
Yes, yep. The Leonard Peltier Walk to Freedom is set to dock in DC, I believe. Is it the 12th, Robert? They should
Yeah.
be just
And
a state over right about now. They're 83 miles to DC as of 1 hour ago. They just moved camp to Maryland. So
wow.
we'll be catching up with Leonard Peltier's Walk to Justice probably later this week.
Definitely, we definitely will. Hey, Ogama, thanks a lot. Stay around with me. Would be me, and Dr. Stately. We'll talk about some more voting things and maybe have a few surprise clips to play. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey, Robert. This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization working towards fighting for climate justice. That's what it is. It's fighting for climate justice. It's Monday, everybody.
No doubt. Hey, Jason's in DC now for ICWA. He just posted up on our Facebook page, our live feed on Facebook, which reminds me to tell everyone, Ogama, that you can watch us and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Just Google that. And also, just to let everyone know, too, we just had Jane Fonda do the little bumper there. We've had Leonard Peltier on the show. You can look that up and listen to that interview. I was like a little kid talking to him. Not too much of a good interview, but it was good hearing from him. And we've had so many different guests on the last couple of years. It's just been an amazing ride, and you get that iTunes and Spotify and all those groovy places. And you can go to AM 950 too. They are all, how do you say? They're all there.
Yeah, we are all over the internet. We're all over the airwaves on the Civic Media Network in Minnesota, Wisconsin, the tip of Michigan, and shooting down a little bit into Chicago a little bit. So yeah, we're really broadcasting as loud and clear as we can in many different directions, trying to make sure our relatives and people are uplifted and able to get information that's important to them. And Robert, we're also live on Twitter too, and we're at Native Roots 950 on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook at Native Roots Radio Network. So make sure you check us out there. And we're on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, and I don't know. Are we on Apple Podcasts, Robert? Do you know?
I don't
That
know.
one I don't know about. We don't know about Apple Podcasts, everybody. We're sorry. So
Hey, so I want to just give a shout out to Civic Media Network, of course, the mother station here, AM 950, but we're also live in WXCO in Wausau, WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids, WTTN in Madison, WAUK Waukesha, the Shaw, WIRI in Nakusa, Nakusa, and WRCO in Richland, WRCE in Richland, and WXCE in Amory, and WISS in Oshkosh.
wow.
So wow, just
That's a lot of
remember
letters, Robert. That's a lot of call
the,
letters.
just remember when we started Ogama, it was our moms listened to the show, and that was it.
Yeah, our moms and our families. Yeah, for sure. I
That
mean, we've really we've branched out and expanded over the last few years, and that would not be possible without our generous donors who have contributed to us at patreon.com/Native Roots Radio Network. So if you're looking to find a way to support us on Native Roots Radio, make sure to hit that like button, that share button on whatever social media you might be viewing us on. Share us with your friends and family. Let them know when and where they can listen to us, or go to Patreon and look for Native Roots Radio Network. And anything that you could donate is a help to us. And it really helps to make sure that we're able to give you this news and keep up to date. Looks like we got an update here from Jason, who is with the Native Youth Alliance, with them in person, not a member. I don't know if he's considered a member of, but he's in person with the Native Youth Alliance, and they're teepee on the mall on Instagram. So it looks like they put a teepee up on the National Mall for this ICWA hearing coming up. Robert, have you checked that out at all yet?
No, but you did mention that in the first segment, so can't wait to jump off the show and look that up, because again, I am going to DC for this reason. Exactly. So one of the things I want to talk about here in a real quick minute here, Ogama, we had a lot of cool people on the show, from politicians, musicians, to actors, to just everyday people that are doing a good job here in the community. But we have a great friendship with the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, and I'm wondering if we could just play. She sent us a clip today, and I wonder if we can just play that and maybe comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me just a second here. I'm going to get this pulled up and ready to go. And we're going to be hearing from the Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, who's a member of the White Earth Nation and was kind enough to give us a little clip this week for Native Roots Radio.
Bonjour, I'm Peggy Flanagan, White Earth Ojibwe and Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor, and I'm running for re-election with Governor Tim Walz. When our communities aren't at the table, usually that means we're on the menu, but I've been honored to make sure that our voices, Native voices, are heard at the state capitol during my 4 years as Lieutenant Governor. In our first term, we work with legislators and community to create a missing and murdered Indigenous women's task force, and later, the first state office in the country dedicated to missing and murdered Indigenous relatives.
Oh, hang on.
Just
I
lost
got it. I
her.
got it. My bad.
Bonjour, I'm Peggy Flanagan, White Earth Ojibwe and Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor, and I'm running for re-election with Governor Tim Walz. When our communities aren't at the table, usually that means we're on the menu, but I've been honored to make sure that our voices, Native voices, are heard at the state capitol during my 4 years as Lieutenant Governor. In our first term, we work with legislators and community to create a missing and murdered Indigenous women's task force, and later, the first state office in the country dedicated to missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. We passed an executive order and then signed it into law, requiring state agencies to have meaningful consultation with all of our 11 Native nations, and to also have tribal liaisons located within each agency, and mandating tribal state relations training for every commissioner, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, and many of our state leaders and employees. We passed Indigenous Education for All, ensuring that Native and non-Native students know who they are and where they came from. And we secured hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to tackle homelessness in Native communities, and $5.5 million for the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians. We also ensured that resources specifically directed at the urban Native community were invested in our people. I'm asking for your support, not just to ensure that Native voices are represented, but to know that when Native communities do well, the entire state of Minnesota does well. Our reproductive rights are also under attack from opponents who have promised to ban abortion, even for survivors of rape or incest. Sovereignty over our own bodies is on the line. We face a choice between cutting funding for our schools and giving students the fully funded classrooms that they deserve. We need additional mental health resources so that our young people and our communities can be their full, beautiful selves and live healthy lives. And our very democracy is under attack from election deniers who continue to push lies and conspiracy theories about our elections. It's so important that we make sure that our voices are heard at the polls. You can find your polling place by going to mnvotes.org right now. You can vote on Tuesday anytime from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you aren't already registered to vote, that's okay. You can register in person when you go to vote at your polling place on Election Day. We need you on Tuesday. Bring a friend, bring a relative. Voting is a tradition in our communities. So let's get this done. Gitchini Gwech.
Wow, that was the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Minnesota. Uh, Ogama, it's great to have Peggy drop us that clip and remind everybody. I want to remind everyone out there too. I think you mentioned it a little earlier in the show, is to find out if you've already voted, which I have and Wendy has. Find out who hasn't and if they need help or a reminder. This is a big election, and there's no such thing as midterm elections anymore. This is an important election that we need to get out the vote. And I was listening to this one show today, and they were basically saying that the Republican numbers pretty much stay the same amount. So the same amount of Republicans vote. It's the Democrats that stay home, are mad or butthurt or lazy and not wanting to do it or not paying attention, that put things over the top for us like they did in the last election. So that's stay engaged. And if your relatives out there need help and a reminder of what's going on, please give them a call. There's so
Yeah.
many, like Nancy has just posted, our great Nancy Bolio, too many issues at stake. We need to vote.
We
Um,
do. We really do need to vote, and we need to make sure that our relatives are voting as well. I happened to talk a little bit on NPR a while back, talking about getting people encouraged and ready and confident in voting. And I had mentioned, we need aunties. We need to call our aunties up and be like, Auntie, tell me what's on the ballot this year. How do I vote? We need to find those people in our communities. And when we don't know where those people are, you can reach out. You can reach out to Make Voting a Tradition or NACD, the Native American Community Development Institute. Native Roots Radio, we do work on this every election season so far. We have made sure to follow and give as much information as we can about how to vote and what's at stake, what's on the ballot, interviewing as many Native candidates as we can too. And I just want to highlight one more time, ICT, formerly Indian Country Today, has a master list of candidates that are identify as Native American throughout the country. So if you head on over to IndianCountryToday.com, you can find out how you can support your Native candidates at every level of government.
Sounds like your little baby's talking too and wants us to go out and vote.
Yeah, Nova says vote, everybody.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and it's like the election eve. So Ogama and I are holding down the fort, and we have a lot of fun clips to play, inspiring clips. So you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Smart radio for smart people. That's the Tom Hartman program. Listen to me, Tom Hartman, from 11 a.m. to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
Taking prescription medication should not be a scary task. The staff at St. Paul Corner Drug makes certain you know everything about your prescription medication before you leave the pharmacy. Knowing what to expect and when and how to take your prescriptions gives you the confidence to safely take your medication and maintain good health. Should additional questions arise, we are here to help sort things out. St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be, at stpaulcornerdrug.com.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 35. Then rain and storms possible on Tuesday with a high of 51. The locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oils and vinegars since 2009. That's Vinaigrette, Xerxes Avenue and 50th Street in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey everyone, this is Ogamaganua, and I want to let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by Make Voting a Tradition, a service of the Native American Community Development Institute. Make sure you head on over to makevotingatradition.org, make your pledge to vote, and also, Robert, look at this fabulous information from our activist relative Nancy Bolio.
Hey, just to let the mother station know, Nancy is trying to call in and no one's answering. So if you could pick up the phone and give Nancy a call, that would be great. I just wanted to stop in because of all this great information Nancy's shooting out there. Maybe we should, in the meantime, why don't we listen to Lieutenant Governor Barnes, who also sent us a nice little clip. What do you think of that, Ogama? And then
Absolutely, we can do that. I'm going to leave this information up on the screen, though, for our relatives who might be watching us online. And I'm sure once we get Nancy on the line, she'll be talking about it. So here we go. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes from Wisconsin, also a candidate for U.S. Senator.
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, and I'm running for U.S. Senate against Ron Johnson. As Wisconsin's current Lieutenant Governor, I have the privilege and the honor of learning so much about wisdom and the teachings of Wisconsin's Native nations. I've learned about your ways and the importance of respecting the land we walk on and its direct connection to the culture and your livelihoods, and to the livelihood of all people in this state. When I took the oath of office as Lieutenant Governor, I promised to help make Wisconsin a better place for everyone, especially our Native and tribal communities. And that's why I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'm proud that my office played a lead role in developing and making Indigenous Peoples Day a reality in Wisconsin. And I've also worked with Governor Evers to fund conservation projects that respect the land we call home. I've also been deeply honored to serve on the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force. Now, look, I don't need to tell you all, but I know that there's so much more to be done and so much more that we need to be doing. Unfortunately, we just don't have the representation in Washington that we deserve, that you deserve. If we're going to change Washington, we have to change the people we send to Washington. And that work starts today. When I look around, I see people with the power to elect a senator that actually supports and respects tribal sovereignty, one who takes pride in celebrating the history and the power of Native American communities, one who respects the relationship between climate change and preserving our land. As your next senator, I'll be that kind of representative. That's because unlike Ron Johnson, I'm not a multimillionaire. Unlike Ron Johnson, I don't answer to the fancy lobbyists that only care about their profits. And unlike Ron Johnson, I don't have the back end of big oil and big pharma. But what I do have is skin in the game. I have a profound respect for your culture, traditions, and Native American voices. Most importantly, I have the back end of honest, hard-working people just like you who are here today. Instead of a self-serving politician who sold out the Indigenous community in Wisconsin's lands to corporations that only value profit, you have a senator who champions working people and all those who've been left behind. Instead, I'll be a senator that works hand in hand to help overcome hardships and create solutions from struggles. I'll fight for a farm bill that empowers local communities, especially Wisconsin's 11 federally recognized tribes, to distribute locally grown products to grow economies and to support families. I'll also support the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative so we can fully fund projects meant to improve our air quality, to clean our water, and reduce the impact of climate change on the land. I'll fight for affordable quality health care and reduce the cost of prescription drugs so that no one has to ration their insulin. I'll also fight for our environment and to protect the land. I'll fight to expand access to affordable high-speed internet and improve water quality. I will support and I'll defend the Indian Child Welfare Act to help protect the best interests of Native children and to keep them connected to their families and their communities. I'll also advocate for and vote to confirm judicial nominees to the executive branch and to the courts with experience in federal Indian law and who respect tribal sovereignty. I'll be committed every single day to listening, learning, and working to ensure that Native American voices are a part of the change we need to move this entire country forward. Now, I know that our greatest challenges present us with the greatest opportunities. Right now, we face unprecedented challenges, but together, we have an opportunity to give everyone a fair shot, an opportunity to not only protect our environment, but to restore habitats and reduce the impact of climate change on agriculture, an opportunity to make sure that every child here today knows that their hopes and dreams are attainable. I'm running for Senate because I know that better is possible, and I will fight to make better possible for each and every one of us. I know that together, with your support, we can create a future where we protect our environment, where we respect the tribal sovereignty, and have the opportunity to live a dignified life. It's a fight for freedom, a fight for fairness, and a fight for our future. And with your help, I know that this is a fight that we can win together.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. And thanks for them sending it to Native Roots Radio. It's really awesome. Hey, we got Nancy on the phone here, and we love talking to Nancy. Nancy, you're bringing up some great information. I'd love you to tell our listening audience. I know our viewing audience is seeing your great texts, but do you mind? The homeless part is unbelievable. Welcome, Nancy of Bemidji 350.
Right. Well, miigwech for having me again, and I'm calling in here from Leech Lake here in northern Minnesota. I am a band member, a northern organizer for Minnesota 350, and just these last few days, I've been out door knocking in Indian country, and it's really disheartening to find that many of our relatives don't understand what's at stake during this election. So I really want to stress the importance of why this election is probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime. You know, regardless if this is the president's not on this ballot, so a lot of people don't even understand what midterms are. And really, honestly, Robert, we have Social Security at stake. A lot of our relatives depend on it. My mother and my sister with special needs. I don't know what would happen if that was taken away. Affordable housing and our rights to abortion. So, you know, it's not really about who's on the ballot. It's what's really on the ballot when it comes to issues that affect us. And I can't also express how important local races are. Just today I had and yesterday I had an opportunity to door knock with Mark Morrissey, who is, you know, non-native, but he's an ally, and he was a guest on our show a while back. And, you know, he's running in a nonpartisan seat, meaning it doesn't identify to the Republicans or any type of party out there. It's nonpartisan. And, you know, we see right now the incumbent, he has a Trump agenda, and these kind of things are scary. You know, same with these issues that are at stake. The Republicans want to take so much from us, and, you know, under treaty, these are things that are guaranteed to us anyways, but yet, you know, it's a politician who's going to decide our fate. But you know what? In the end, we hold that power, and we do that by voting, and we do that by being engaged in these city and county meetings and showing up and keep showing up. And you do that to remind them that we're still here. So I'm calling on all of our relatives tonight. Get out and vote. Call all your family tomorrow and your friends and your neighbors and say, you know what, we need to vote. And, you know, sometimes some of our relatives and our friends are homeless, or they might be living with a relative, but you know what, Robert, their voices matter too. And I think it's important that we help them get to the polls tomorrow. And if you're living underneath a bridge, all you pretty much need someone from that area that knows you're living under that bridge to go to the poll and vouch that, you know, you're homeless and this is where you live, and you'll vote in that precinct. If you're living on a relative's couch and it's your place of residence, the night before you go and vote, which is tonight, if you're on your relative's couch tonight, ask your relative, please, let's go vote tomorrow and vouch for me that this is my resident, because you know what? We're here to protect, Social Security and the right to abortion for all of our relatives, so I think people need to understand, just because you're homeless doesn't mean you don't matter. You matter. And, a lot of the times, Robert, the reason why they're homeless is because we're not showing up to vote for the candidates that really care. People like Mark Morrissey running for, our county commissioner, he's an ally, but he really cares. He went out and door knocked in Indian country because he cares. And those are the people that we need to elevate tomorrow and vote for.
Yeah, Nancy, we just appreciate you jumping on because of this last minute, just to say these good words, because it's red alert time and we need to call all our relatives and make sure they're voting and understand the issues. And, one of the positive things, I know your boots on the ground, so sometimes it's hard to see these national things, but there's a record amount of before the early voting going around in these key states across the Turtle Island. So I'm predicting a blue tsunami, and it's because of people and the work that you've done. So chin up, you've been doing such a great job for our community as always, and especially now with Rock the Vote Native Style and what you do up in for Bemidji 350 and MN 350 and all our relatives.
Right. I forgot one piece, and I thank you for those kind words, Robert. If you're living in a shelter, a homeless shelter, again, that's your precinct. You can register to vote. That is your address. So, again, if you're in a homeless shelter, go to Poll Finder and find out where your poll is. And I think, we should share those links in our chat again, Poll Finder and what's on your ballot, because you really should take a look at your sample ballot before you get there. And if you're not sure of those candidates or who they are, how you're going to vote, call somebody that does know how to vote and what the candidates that align with our values. And they imagine futures with us, and those are the kind of people we need to elevate. And so I think it's really important we get out tomorrow and vote. And I can't stress it enough, Robert. This is so serious. And looking into 2024, we need to find more funding and find ways where we can really get out and dig deep into these communities and find out, what the issues are. How can we help them? Because from the last election to this one, Robert, I am learning so much. And I think it's really every day putting our boots on, getting back into the communities, not just showing up when we need their vote. We need to do more than that, but we as a people too need to do our part and vote tomorrow, because the DFL party on their action agenda here in Minnesota is treaties. And if we can get these DFLers elected in, that means we can hold their feet to the fire to continue to honor those treaties, which makes our work, our boots on the ground work, a lot easier to continue to defend those treaties.
Wow. Great words as always. What are you going to be doing? We got less than a minute. What are you going to be doing tomorrow?
Oh, I'm going to go back into those communities that I've been in, and I'm going to knock again and say, hey, did you vote? Because if you didn't, I'm here to help you vote today. And so I'm going to be out there for probably a good 13 hours.
Right on. Thank you so much, Nancy, for stopping in. I know you're busy. This is so awesome. You're awesome. I have a good feeling for tomorrow. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio pre-Rock the Vote. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager. The wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey, this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Oh!
That was a good one.
That was a
That was a
good
good
one.
duet there. I was hoping your daughter would join then.
I can still hear her upstairs. She's having a hard day. She's cutting her front teeth, so
Well,
it's
that's
just
got to be
kind of
hard for you to
everything
be
is.
on the air and hear that. Hear your little one
Yeah,
upstairs.
it's not easy on my heart,
Breaking it
but
down.
it's only an hour, and it's been off and on. It hasn't been constant, so she's in great hands. She's with a very good longtime family friend of mine. Her auntie is up there with her, and she's got some cousins, and she's fussy because her mouth hurts, but things will be okay.
Well, it's a good thing she's not spoiled, so that's a good thing.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Oh. Hey, so I want to get Evers on here in a minute, if you don't mind, Ogma. And there was another piece that was sent to us, and it was from the governor of Wisconsin, Evers, and he sent us a little clip. And hopefully tomorrow we're talking with the governor, and he's going to try and stop in the beginning of the show and just give a quick get out the vote kind of thing. He did 2 years ago, or was it 4 years ago? I'm like confused. 2 years
I think
ago,
it was
right?
2 years ago. Yeah, during the last general election, which was 2 years ago.
Right, and he was already governor, so that makes sense. I'm on top of it too today. It's Monday, and then one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and we're winding down the show here now, but I'm going to DC on Wednesday for ICWA, and maybe we can talk a little bit because you and Mary Kunish interviewed some people Friday that gave some interesting information. So why don't we go with a little stump speech here with Governor Evers of the great state of Wisconsin. Go Packers!
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, and I'm
Oh, hang on. Had the
Hey,
wrong video.
that sound like Barnes.
That was Barnes, and I apologize. I'm just looking for the clip from Evers. I thought I had it pulled
That's
up.
why I
And
love live radio. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it's definitely a Monday, and here it is. All right, everybody, are you ready?
Yes.
And this is Governor Tony Evers. Very important election coming up on November 8th, and I'd like to talk to you about several things. First of all, my relationship with the tribal nations in Wisconsin is based on one word, and that's sovereignty. I believe the tribal nations are sovereign, and I believe the leaders of those nations are my colleagues and my equals. And so therefore, we've worked together very well. We meet regularly, monthly at the minimum, with the tribal leaders. And in addition to that, during the pandemic, I think we met over Zoom several times a week. Very proud of the work during COVID-19 by the tribal nations. They saved lives. Obviously, it was a difficult time for everybody in the state, but the tribal leaders and the tribal nations really took it seriously. So in addition to what we've accomplished so far, and especially around the issue of sovereignty, in 2019, which is my first year in office, I signed an executive order officially declaring the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day. And therefore, it's a day that we now celebrate officially in the state of Wisconsin. And in October 2021, I signed an executive order to formally recognize and apologize for the tragedies inflicted upon Native American families and communities at boarding schools in Wisconsin, and of course, across the United States. As a state, we share responsibility and have a moral obligation to pursue the truth and to bring these injustices to light in Wisconsin and our country, because understanding and acknowledgement is essential for accountability and, most importantly, healing. I proposed several initiatives in my state budget to support Native nations, including increasing funding for higher education grants for tribal college students, using the tribal gaming revenue to increase funding for tribal family service grants and tribal elderly transportation grants, and funding the next phase of the creation of a $8 million 36-bed youth wellness center that will work primarily on opioid addiction for both tribal and non-tribal populations. 2021, I reaffirmed the state's relationships with the 11 tribes, signing tribal consultation agreements with tribal leaders to recognize the importance of the state and the tribes working together. These agreements are leading to better communication and transparency, and also we're working on policy development as well together. So let's talk a little bit about the election, upcoming election. There's a lot at stake, and our state will be taken in a radically wrong direction if we're not successful. On every issue, my opponent, Tim Michels, has staked out the most radical positions possible. For example, he said that the 1849 criminal abortion ban is an exact mirror of his position, and he won't support any exemptions for rape or incest. He's against red flag laws and universal background laws that would protect our communities. He said overturning the 2020 election results will be on the table for him as governor. And he said providing additional resources.
Awesome.
Oh, what happened?
That was
Hi, this is Governor Tony's relationship is possible. For example, he said that the 1849 criminal abortion ban is an exact mirror of his position, and he won't support any exemptions for rape or incest. He's against red flag laws and universal background laws that would protect our communities. He said overturning the 2020 election results will be on the table for him as governor. And he said providing additional resources to our public schools is insanity. And further, he's considering cutting our public schools by 40%, their revenue by 40%. So there's obviously a clear choice in doing what's in this next election and what I'm looking to do, and frankly, what Tim Michels wants to do to our state. So it's going to be a tough fight. Please get out and vote, folks.
Wow, that was Governor Tony Evers of the great state of Wisconsin. Wow, what a way to end the show. We got a couple minutes here, Ogama, and I was wondering if we could just talk a little bit about the guest you guys had on Friday and the information about ICWA and why it's so important. I thought there was a kind of a parallel with our sovereignty.
Yeah, absolutely. So this past Friday, I hosted Native Roots Radio with our guest host, Mary Kunish, and we had some really wonderful people on talking about an event that happened at the Hennepin County Library. But we also had a program director of family services at Minneapolis American Indian Center, Laura Newton, who is a 22-year veteran of child and family services and has been working for the American Indian Center in their child and family services department now for about 18 years. And she really talked heavily about the parallels between tribal sovereignty and ICWA. It's not just about the Indian Child Welfare Act. If the Indian Child Welfare Act, as it's going to be heard at the Supreme
Supreme Court this coming Wednesday, November 9th. It's also known as Halland versus Brackeen, and it's a group of cases that have been lumped together to be heard by the Supreme Court to determine whether or not ICWA is considered unconstitutional based on the, concept of race. However, once ICWA protections are removed, that also really stands in line for other people to come forward and challenge tribal sovereignty. And I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I came across on Twitter and that I have heard and talked about with other people as well. I'm reading this from Auntie Wayoti's Bad Advice column. So wait, bear with me. But basically, she says that the ICWA, the three important things to understand about it are the residential school system and the express intent to destroy indigenous cultures, and that it all would lead back to oil. If there's no sovereignty in nations, they can do whatever they want with our land. So this is a really big issue, and the precedent it could set is terrifying. So make sure you're following along with that and you're exercising your rights however you can.
Hey, we need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We're still here. Free Leonard Peltier now and vote.
Hi, my name is Pamela Topchian. I'm a former nurse,